Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Python tutorial series dedicated to object-oriented programming. Last week we looked at a brief overview of what object-oriented programming is and how it works. So if you're new to this subject, then make sure to check out that video first. Today we are going to learn how to implement the structure of a class in Python. But before we do so, make sure to join the Coding Specs community by subscribing to the channel. Have you done it? Good. Now then, without any further ado, let's get straight into today's video. The first thing we have to do is create a class. Normally, to define a function, we would use the def command, followed by the name of the function. In the case of a class, we would use the class command, followed by the name of the class, which in this case we can call our first class. As you can see, there are no arguments required for the class, because remember that a class only provides the global structure for our code. Now though, let's start adding extra parts into our class. The first thing will be some attributes. If you're not sure what attributes are, then make sure to check out my introduction to object-oriented programming by clicking on the link in the top right-hand corner of your screen or in the video description. Returning to our code, in order to define the class's attributes, we need to use a special method called init. What this does is it runs automatically every time the class is called, and can be used to define all of our main attributes. So let's write def _init _self. Now I'm sure many of you will be asking yourselves, what is this self we've written in the init function? Well, what this does is it indicates that the init function, or better still method, is part of the class, and therefore shares any of the class's other attributes which may also be defined in other methods. If this concept is perhaps still unfamiliar to you, then make sure to leave a comment below and I will create a dedicated video to explain it in more depth. Now that we have our first method, we can write self.speed equals 4 and self.direction equals 180. As you can see, here we find again that self prefix. Why? Because the variables we are declaring inside this method are shared throughout the entire class. If I were to have written only speed equals 4, then this variable called speed would have belonged only to this function or method and not to the entire class. By adding the self prefix in front of the variable name, I am basically taking what would have been a local variable and assigning it as an attribute to the entire class. In this way, any methods which employ the self input, as with our init method here, will be able to access and share all of the class's attributes. Having said that, I think this is a nice place to end today's episode. As usual, don't forget to check out my previous tutorial videos and coding challenges, which you can find in the top right-hand corner of your screen and in the video description. Also, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to the channel for lots more coding fun. Make sure to join me again next week for a new tutorial where we will continue today's work. And as always, until then, happy coding!